Good morning, everybody. Well, it's another fine day here in Puna. Well, those of you who have been around the channel for a while, you know, I'll talk about just about anything. But if you happen to be new here, having a garden channel talking about patterns, which is today's discussion, may seem a little bit unusual. Yeah, patterns. Greasy cat just come walking up here. It appears from here that everything in our visible or known universe, whatever, everything that I can see, has a pattern. Yeah. It doesn't matter whether it's a living organism and the patterns, are based on DNA and genetics, or if it's a stone and it has a crystalline structure. There is a pattern there. There's patterns to everything. Patterns in sound, patterns in rhythm, patterns in art. These are patterns. Okay, they're patterns, things that cause pretty much everything there is to take the individual and unique shapes that everything takes. And pretty much none of the patterns are the same. They're infinite, I guess, the amount of patterns. Well, I didn't realize as a younger man, how important these patterns and pervasive patterns were in life. I engaged them. Well, for instance, I'd take a 45, record, drop it on a turntable, take my guitar and sit there and listen, and I'd listen for the patterns. Being a mostly self-taught musician by ear, I definitely operated with the patterns. And say in music, for instance, it's a whole cluster of patterns. Just one top 40 song. You got patterns that are in rhythm. You got patterns that are in intervals. You have patterns that are in frequencies. It's just, music is just piles and piles of patterns. One particular song may have many different patterns all operating and integrated together. Yep, this thing hitting here and that thing hitting there and so on. It's all patterns. Well, see, I engaged in this, right? I didn't realize exactly what I was doing. It was just, I'm listening to music, play the notes, say, okay, here's the beat, and I just do these things. Well, language. Language is a pattern of tonality and ideas. Yeah, it's vibration connected to ideas, shapes of vibration and thought process. It's a pattern. Of course, mathematics is so apt at being able to describe patterns that we use math as a universal solvent to basically describe almost everything in our environment. Math will do that because it's really good at patterns. Yeah, so all of this pre-existed, but, Bill, he was kind of a dummy about it. I didn't get it. It just didn't seem to dawn on me that I was using and engaging these patterns. I was, I don't know, probably somewhere between 40 and 50 years old. I don't quite exactly remember the age, but I do remember the incident. Yes. I worked for and managed nurseries in the Bay Area of California, known as Navles. They're gone now. They were in business since 1885. They've been purchased by Sloats after I left. The whole company fell apart once I was gone. No. Anyway, so They were well known in the area for having accurate horticultural information. And so even people that didn't drop a dime there would come walking into the desk and say, "What is this?" or "What's my problem?" or, that sort of thing. And just bear in mind, if you have a independent, privately owned nursery in your area that has well-trained nursery people in the staff, my suggestion is if you go and you pump them for information and they give you a good answer, I drop my dime there too. Don't take it to Home Depot. Keep them in business. Those people are very valuable, and their local understandings of this are very, very regional. Anyway, so I'd have people bringing me stuff at the desk. And, well, as frequently, California, they grow so many different plants there. I'd have stuff that had come to me that I've never seen before, maybe never even heard of it before. Well, I had an experience one day when a guy brought me a branch from a tree. It had leaves, buds, and so on. And I took one look at it, and I said, okay, I've never seen this tree. But it was as if a Rolodex, of patterns, of mental images of plants, plant patterns, began going through my mind, and they rolled, and all of a sudden, click, they stopped on ulmus. Yeah, it was an elm. My mind, which had recorded patterns, apparently, of elms throughout my life, without me really working this one out, it was very subconscious. I clicked on a pattern in my storage, in my memory, that was of elms. And so from there, I was able to go to the books, open them, look, and go, it's a Russian elm. I've never seen one of these before. Zolkova serrata. Yeah. Well, I found it rather extraordinary after the customer left. I said, "How did you do that? You've never seen that tree before. How did you answer that question?" And I realized I had this Rolodex of plant patterns in my brain. Every time somebody brings me a plant, it would start spinning. Well, if it's a marigold, it didn't spin too far. But if it was something that I had not seen or seldom seen, well, then the sensation of racing through patterns became evident. Yeah, I become aware of it when it took me a while to search this out. Once I realized how my mind was recording and then utilizing patterns, I began exercising this, looking at it. I began using it for fun on people's facial characteristics and body types. I would often quite accurately identify their genetic origins, like even if they're all white, and it was in patterns, again, patterns of the way their bodies were built that I was matching. Music, though, it was, like for me, was one of the early pattern exercises for sure, because I'd been doing that since I was a boy without realizing what I'd been up to. Well, I found that I've always been pretty good at blindfold testing with the musicians that I study. Yeah, you put a couple of notes of Howlin' Wolf on, or, a note or two of Muddy Waters, Eric Clapton, Jimi Hendrix, whatever. People that I have definitely listened to a lot. I can tell you within a couple of notes. Yeah, just then a phrase or two, who it is. And usually the song and, that sort of thing. Maybe a little history about it even. I blindfold test really well with the musicians I study. And I find it amazing, really, that here we're dealing with patterns mostly of frequency vibration. It's very complex what the mind does, because I'm quite reliable when I hear, two notes, a Howlin' Wolf's voice. All right. It's pretty identifiable. He's unique, but still, It's, I think for the rest of us who, have never bothered to study music that deeply, you recognize your mother's voice in a crowd, probably. That's how it works. Same way. We recognize, the voices of the people that we're familiar with. Well, it's the same with music. These are all voices. Yeah, and we have pattern recognition on them. It's I find it extraordinary because it happens mostly automatically. This is not something, that we're thinking out. For me, I guess it was a slow rehearsal. I exercised these pattern things because of what I was doing. Hey, Gracie. Hi there, girl. Gracie, do you want to say hello to the people today in the camera? Huh? Should I pick you up? Huh? Should I pick you up? You go on the camera? Yeah. Yeah, there you are. There's my Gracie cat. Yeah. She says, yes, Bill. You can put me in the camera. Say hello to people, Gracie. Huh? Yeah. Ain't you a cutie? Yeah. Well, and so here we got a cat. She's got patterns too, right? Yeah. Even when Gracie loses her collar in the woods, I can tell who she is by the patterns of her fur. But honestly, mostly she's got a birthmark on the top of the inside of her mouth roof. That one there looks like the chain of Hawaiian Islands. It's black, runs across the top of her mouth. Right, Grace? Yeah. She says, you let me down. I want to sniff the crabgrass. Well, so, yeah, this whole thing with patterns, I do find it extraordinary. Everything has patterns. And, well, I mean, if you're looking at rock crystals, guys who are familiar with rocks, well, you can tell right off, probably, just by looking at a crystal lattice, probably what that mineral might be, because each mineral tends to form the structures a little bit different. Now, we're not aware of rocks having DNA or genetics like Gracie here. She tends to reproduce cats that look quite a bit like her. She had one son that was very similar. Yeah, but that's genetics, right? Rocks. What's with rocks? Everything's got a certain energy that creates a certain vibration that makes a certain pattern, and the mind actually seems to be automatically acceptable to this. The mind being part of all of this, our body having sprung from it, somehow without my meat brain awareness seems to fully absorb and understand patterns around us. Bird song. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty out there that you hear bird song. You know what bird that is, I get people asking me all the time, what is that bird? Well, it's a mourning dove, Well, the sound has a certain pattern. The mind locks it in and says, yeah, dove pattern. The amount of patterns, I think, that most of us would have stored, even if we've never thought about this, is probably remarkable. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just about everything we have is based on patterns, and you remember them without giving too much trouble to it. It took a little while to learn the patterns in with numbers. It took a little while to learn, your patterns in your language and so on. But, they stick. Alrighty, well, there you go, folks. That's about all I got to say on patterns for today. Y'all hang loose. You have a great day. Gracie? Should we edit the video? Oh, here she goes. Yep, as usual.